Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I'm with my friend once again, Alexio. Welcome back to the channel, Alexio.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. And today we're going to talk about a spiritual diet. So we have different ideas on this. Some things we agree on, some things we don't. So with my diet, it's much less about health, to be honest, physical health. Um, Even though I'm very healthy. I've been vegan for about 1.5 to 2 years now. I was vegetarian 7 years before that. I have had no health problems. I don't suffer from anemia. I have the proper vitamins that I get from my food. One thing that I do take is creatine because my creatine levels are really low, and usually you only get that from meat. So the only thing that I really have to take is creatine. Multivitamins are good, but not really necessary with my diet. But my whole diet is based more on trying to trying to limit the cruelty in the world. So, you know, plants can feel, not in the same way as animals or humans, but they can feel, but they don't have the emotions to retrospect on that feeling. They don't have the ability to both contemplate and understand um, what is happening to them. And this is why when animals can have those similar human emotions, that it becomes more of a something that breaks my heart really. That we're putting them in these situations now. I don't really mind something like hunting as much because, with hunting, you're killing the animal yourself. It's in the forest. But these slaughterhouses and assembly lines of cows and pigs, and then the amount of they feed them just crap their whole lives until they raise them up.
hmm
And they're a lot of the time cows are fed parts of other cows.
hmm
And so that on top of the amount of preservatives they have to pump into it, which is not chemically healthy for your brain and for other parts of your body. And also, you know, there has been recent studies that basically say the chemicals that are produced through suffering in an animal before they die, especially their entire lives, actually have a physiological effect on us. It basically it doesn't affect us the exact same way. We don't feel the exact same emotions of the animals, but there are toxic chemicals produced by suffering that we digest and become a part of
Trickle
us.
down effect.
Yes, for sure. So I base my diet once again not necessarily on what is healthiest for me, though I am in good health. I base it on trying to limit the amount of cruelty. You can call it cruelty-free footprint. We have the carbon footprint. My cruelty footprint is just as valuable as the carbon footprint, in my understanding. But do I preach at other people or make them feel bad about what they eat? No, that's not what I'm concerned with. When I take as much cruelty as possible out of my diet, I find that I'm actually connected to the multiverse more securely. I think that when I became vegetarian, there was this link that I didn't know what that was there that kept on growing and growing and intensifying and intensifying. And when I became vegan, I thought, man, it's gonna be so hard to give up cheese and other stuff. And it was
Right.
hard. It is hard, but I found that I actually lost weight, and for some reason, I just felt more connected to the gods. Maybe that's just me making that up in my head, possible, but it's something that I think I registered. So, granted that I don't try to like shame people or anything like that. Just feel free to give your ideas on a spiritual diet, kind of from your perspective, either in response to me or something else, whatever you
Yeah.
would.
Well, I 100% feel one of the main things in my whole path is what is right for me is not right for you. And the gods, I feel, really put it in your heart what is right for you, and you feel it in your heart. You can't deny your own heart. And if you think about people who are outright don't have these thoughts at all, they clearly don't have it in their heart at all. So maybe they're either they're not on that wavelength yet, or they haven't awoken to that level or not, or I'm not sure what it is. But for me, having been on that level and understanding like what you said, like the cruelty and all that, um, the first steps I took in the very beginning were to eat at like local farms where I knew for sure, like not just what's on the label, but like I knew the farm and how they treated their animals. Like, it really helps to, and that was like for me, like knowing that the animals I ate were never treated cruelly. They were allowed to graze on grass and freely roam. They weren't shoved in cages and just kicked around like dirt. I feel like that makes a huge difference. And, really, I really feel like when humans first started eating meat, it was never a thing of like how the animals are treated. It was really more of a connection thing. Like you were saying, like when you were hunting, that is something that is provided for you. You have to work to get that. It's not just, oh, a million pigs are already murdered for you to just make your pig. It's something that you worked for and the earth either gave it to you or not. Um,
And
for
those
me,
chemicals aren't pumped into like when you hunt. Those
right,
the chemicals are not pumped into that because it's not pumped with preservatives. But yeah, just go ahead.
that, uh, but yeah, I went through the whole cruelty thing, and at some point I came to the idea or the realization that cruelty itself could only be limited and not prevented. And like kind of like what you were saying with the plants, like maybe they don't feel pain in the same ways, but like my connection to plants is stronger than my connection to animals in a way, and that like the way I work through it is some animals, destroy other animals. Most plants do not eat animals. Like there are very few carnivorous plants. If you think about how plants pretty much only give, I felt even worse killing a plant than I did killing an animal. So what I realized and what I did for me is I decided to eat things that I felt like were literally given to us by the earth. And I was recently watching a documentary, and the salmon, when people harvest salmon, and same with the bears, this is a thing that all the animals that eat salmon know, that when the salmon travel upstream to lay their eggs, that's a one-way trip. They go there to die after they lay their eggs. So like if you're eating that meat, that is meat that is already destined for death. So I felt like that's where I first started salmon, because I knew that, okay, salmon are part of that cycle. They die now. That is the kinds of things you're supposed to eat. You're not supposed, I don't feel like you're supposed to take a entire population and force them to breed just for your food. That's not how the cycle is created.
So, would you say that you use sustainable when you eat salmon or other fish? Do you look for sustainability as far as like it says it on the package a lot of the time where like this is the result of a sustainable population. But I've heard that with you do, and
Yeah.
so with salmon, I've actually known other pescatarians that do look for that at least label on the box. But with the regulations now, who knows? I mean, I'm really disappointed in the regulations we have now. But yeah, I've never heard it phrased that way. So I actually learned something because I know the life cycle of salmon. But if they were going to die anyway after they lay their eggs, then that makes more sense to me than a lot of the fishing practices for sure. And yeah, it's definitely like it's way better to when you know that this animal is not treated badly and then you eat it. That's way better than for your health and for your soul and for you trying to live a cruelty free life to know the source of the meat and know that that animal was not mistreated. I think that is honestly more of a habit that I would recommend to meat eaters because I feel like we just go for what's easy a lot of
Right.
the time, and ease just because something is easy, I don't I don't think a lot of people look into it, and I think a lot of people don't know exactly where they get their food. But just because something is easy doesn't mean that it's right, even if your budget is very low. There are ways to get every nutritional aspect to your diet that you need. But the cruelty aspect is definitely. I'm glad you take that into account, and I take it into account myself. Are there any like so what vegetables do you eat as far as just vegetables, not fruits? And do you take any supplements or anything like that?
Um, no, actually, I get everything from food, and I try to balance that. And through mindfulness, I have learned to read. what my body needs a lot. Like, I don't eat salt a lot, for instance. This is a good example. I have 6 uncles. 3 of them died of strokes, okay? And I watched them consume salt their whole lives. So I try to limit salt in my diet completely. And because of that, my body will need salt. And I can tell when I'm craving salt. Sometimes I'll have to just eat salt. Uh, so when it comes to like, the foods that I eat, I am keeping in mind like the balance. And I feel like that's more important. And then, it's hard to explain because like my perspective is Ayurvedic. So it's like a balance of all your nutrients and all your food groups. You have a proper amount of fruits and vegetables. I eat a lot of green beans. Uh, my main thing is, yogurt and fruit and, to keep milk into the diet without drinking milk because I don't drink milk. I don't feel like you're supposed to drink milk. Um, I use, yogurt culture that keeps your digestion very healthy and all that.
Hmm.
But, most of what I get is fruit and vegetables. And so like when it comes to my protein, it's mostly beans and fish. And, like I haven't had a problem really with not eating meat because, uh, after a while you realize like, if you don't eat meat so long, you lose taste for it. And once you start to actually taste meat, it just tastes so different. The texture is so different. You do not want it anymore. So that's been mainly like my path is I don't eat meat because I literally don't want to. And, I eat a lot of shrimp too, because they're huge populations. I feel like that's a thing too. You can't really overfish shrimp because they're very, very, very abundant. I think that's, another thing with, the kinds of food you eat, sustaining the populations of what you're eating from. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does make sense, and I think that what a lot of people don't take into account is the level of consciousness of the meat some people eat. The level of consciousness in shrimp is very, very low.
Very.
Um, and and Swami Kliyananda, he said that if your body has been accustomed to meat for many decades and you feel like you can't, not eat meat, or if your doctor tells you you might need to eat meat, then something like lamb would be good because it's it's not a very intelligent animal. But shrimp and fish even very much more so.
Right.
So you have to think of the level of consciousness of what you're consuming. Um, I think for that reason, cows and pigs are obviously things that I would never consume because their level of consciousness is on an emotional level that can be even very human. So
Right.
that is those are I think those are two of the cruelest sources of meat, and of course we have different countries where people might even eat dogs or something like that, and then the dogs are on a very very they're on a higher level of consciousness, but really it's their associated consciousness with us. So if there's an
Right.
animal that's very closely associated with us as far as consciousness, as far as like this is my friend that is an animal, that's something that we have to take into account as well. Even though pigs might have technically more emotions than dogs, but at any rate, so you mentioned Ayurvedic diet or medicine. So a lot of people don't know what Ayurvedic is. Is there a way you can kind of sum up this, this ancient Hindu diet and medicinal understanding in as far as how it applies to your diet, just briefly, or is that impossible?
Uh, well, I could say, yeah, that is impossible. And, especially for me at my level of knowledge with Ayurveda, uh, I recently got into it, but I realized that a lot of the things I've already done were Ayurvedic. And, in that sense, I feel like, Ayurveda is all about getting your medicines from the foods you eat instead of getting sick and
Hmm.
then getting drugs. You can eat the right amounts of nutrients from your foods to preventative medicine through food is what Ayurveda is. And, I guess that does sum it up. but it's very, very technical, and the amounts of plants and all the dosages and all that are very extreme. But it's also a way of life. Everything is connected. Like it's not just about food. It's about your sleep patterns. You know how you wake up, and you know, literally like meditation is woven into it. It's like it's every piece of your life being conjoined and being medicine. Like really being medicine before you ever get sick. And it really is a lot. But I would say as far as like food principles, if you think about all the things that your body needs to make the antibodies necessary, like for instance, lots of green teas, green proteins, or not proteins, leafy greens and all that, uh, increase your antibody production and it helps you fight free radicals in your body.
For
So like
sure.
the more you have that in your body naturally, the less you're dependent on outside substances to help you get unsick, prevent sicknesses before they occur. And that's pretty much what Ayurvedic is about.
That makes total sense. I honestly have a small amount of information on it myself. So I think that we should kind of, wrap up with herbs and spices. So for some reason, my body craves lemon pepper. I don't know what it is about lemon pepper. I know that in pepper, it has almost all the metals that we need. That's the amazing thing about pepper. But I found that since I became vegan and even vegetarian to a certain extent, I'm all about the spices, and the spices that I use, it basically makes it taste just as good as meat. I mean, most of the meat's taste is actually spices.
It
Um,
is.
it is. So you know, which is it's just funny because most people are like, oh, this is what meat tastes like. It's like, you don't really know, you don't. But
Uh,
so I'm a big fan of garlic and onion, but I know in Ayurvedic medicine, garlic and onion is kind of shied away from. So
no, actually, garlic is the best drug on the planet, actually,
well,
for your
well
immune system.
I've heard other Hindus say, you should stay away from garlic and onions, and some have connected to Ayurvedic medicine, but maybe that's just a misnomer in my mind. But for some reason, there's a large amount of Hindus that do not consume onion and garlic. I don't know why, but I will say that that seems to be a thing. I've seen it be a thing time and time again, but I never really researched why. And maybe we can talk about that. But another spice that I seem to really love, two of them is turmeric and peppercorn. So peppercorn, comes in the corns and you twist it, and the turmeric. I found that that's a great anti-inflammatory. It's helped my bowels not be inflamed if I drank too much or something like that, and it helps you in other ways as well. So, do you have anything to say about onions and garlic and some spices that you like especially?
Yes, and I'm not sure where you heard that, but garlic is one of Ayurveda's top plants, along with ginger and turmeric, as you named. Very, very amazing plants. Me personally, I also love like homegrown sage. I like to use that in food a lot, and also obviously for magical properties and stuff. Huge fan of basil. Basil with fish is one of my favorite things to eat. And ginger is my favorite thing in the world,
You can
maybe.
add it to so many things, man, and just it's
Yeah,
so beneficial.
I'll
Yeah.
chew it. I'll chew it. I'll cut it up and like I keep big chunks of ginger around and I'll dice it up and make fresh ginger teas. It's amazing. Ginger I would say is my favorite plant to consume in that way that I crave constantly. Uh, but yeah, all the plants you named, I'm not sure about onions really, but garlic and ginger and turmeric are, and there are a lot of if you look up top 10 Ayurvedic plants on YouTube, you can get way more information than I could provide for you. But those are three of the 10 superfoods in Ayurveda medicine. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to say at this point that it's definitely good to do your own research and not just listen to us, because
Right.
you have to learn it for yourself. Don't just take our word for it. Now thinking back on garlic and onion, I think that it might have been a Jane practice not to eat those. But
Make
yeah, man, I feel like we got a lot of good information out here. Maybe we should do like a part two sometimes on this or sometime on this. Is there any recommendation you would make, just kind of closing up here when it comes to diet and spirituality, or I'll go ahead and make mine after you.
Yeah, I would say literally the biggest thing in my life as far as diet has been green tea. I'm pretty much a Japanese man when it comes to green tea, and I've drank it my whole life. And because of it, until coronavirus, I'd never questioned that I could get sick because I don't get sick because I've always drank so much green tea, green tea, green tea, green tea, and it keeps your body so strong that you don't need a flu shot if you drink green tea enough. Really, it keeps your free radicals very low, and it helps prevent many cancers too. Like green tea is just an amazing, amazing substance.
Yeah, that's great advice. The funny thing is, I know a lot about the health benefits of green tea, but I just simply never remember to buy it. But that's something that I need to improve. At any rate, my recommendation is to do your own research as far as the transference of chemicals from animals to man, as far as slaughterhouses go, whether it be as a product of their suffering or what they put in meat. So even if you're going to eat meat, which is most of the United States eats meat, please find some way to reach out to farmers, or find online meat that you can order that is cruelty free and as preservative free as possible, because once these chemicals add up in our bodies, there's a lot of toxicity that comes with your average steak or your average pork chop, something like that.
That
Um,
sounds good part too, honestly.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, hey, thank you very much, Alexio, for joining me on this. And would you like to give yourself a plug as far as where people can find you?
Yeah, you can check us out at solidbandia.com, or you can find me at Alexio Reigns at Facebook, or just check us out at Facebook at Salvandia. Either way.
Excellent. It's great. And of course, everybody knows they can find me at www.facebook.com/hunter.salazar. You can message me. You can friend me. At any rate, me and you will keep on talking, Alexio. But thank you very much for watching, everybody. And I hope all y'all learned something and have a great day.
Later.